Welcome to the Holy Spirit's Curriculum of Joy podcast. My name is Wanaka Oberhuber, and my guest today is Melanie Meade. Hi.
Hi.
Great to have you here. Thank you for joining me.
It's nice to be here. Thank you for.
So, let's start by getting to know you a little bit. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your life or your interests and what you'd like to talk about?
Sure. I'm a mother of two boys, African American, from the United States, and I live in a town that has mainly been inundated with air pollution due to steel industry. I was a Spanish and special education teacher for a while, and then I became a hospice caregiver for my parents who are now deceased. And I'm trying to find my way in this new life, being on this earth without them, and looking into new opportunities. So this was an opportunity that was new, and I thought I should take it and see where it leads.
Yeah, wonderful. And have you read A Course in Miracles, for instance?
Yes, my mom was a fan of A Course in Miracles, and when she passed away, I ran out to buy the book so that I could start reading it again in a way to keep her close to me in the spirit and to show her that I may not have been paying attention then, but she planted good seeds.
Yeah, because in A Course in Miracles, it says communication is never ended, so the connection is always there. What does that mean to you in terms of your family and the deceased?
It means freedom, freedom to live and freedom to not feel guilty or alone. Um, I've always felt this way as a small child, and I felt like we were pushed to think differently, and everyone will tell you that they're sorry for your loss. And I've never really felt as though I lost them in their spirit, which is, I think, the strongest part of them. Their physical bodies are not here, so I can't feel them. But I believe that that's not so important. It's the spirit that is the strength that we need, and that gives us the ability to live and continue living after our loved ones have passed on.
Yeah. And you joined the Writing by Heart writers group. And so I would like to hear a little bit about your motivation to write.
Yes, I was offered an opportunity to write for a newspaper, an online newspaper, and then this group came about, and I thought, what a wonderful way to really delve into something I enjoyed when I was in college early on. And uh, I think that everything that we do from our heart can really help others learn how to heal. So I'd like to learn how to write from the heart and express myself to share a story so that others will know that they aren't alone and that they can heal their hearts.
It's a wonderful motivation. Wonderful. Yeah, so
Thank you.
you must have some lessons in mind or things that you learned in life that you might want to share here.
I learned most that everything should be taken lightly and we shouldn't carry heavy burdens. Life is so fleeting, and we shouldn't put any more onto it than we need. Death is just the same. We shouldn't carry it with us forever. It's something that has a place in time. And once we give our hearts to live in the moment, we don't have to resist life or death. And that gives us the joy of living freely. And I think that's very important for all of us, especially during this pandemic, to live freely and care about what's essential, not have to hurry and rush and hustle about for things that are not essential.
Yeah, that's a beautiful lesson. Would you like to give some examples?
Well, a lot of times here in the United States, families are eating out at fast food restaurants. And I know that one of my greatest joys was cooking with my parents. Both of my parents love to cook. And I think that we've gotten so busy in life and we're rushing that we've forgotten about the little joys our children have in small things. The joy of eating at a fast food restaurant is not the same as preparing a meal with family and eating at the table together. And the although we say terrible things about the year of 2020 and the pandemic, it can be a year that we can change our perspectives and restore what is wholesome and true to living with family and children, and stop running about to be busy for industry and corporation.
Wow, very powerful. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I read one of your articles and you were speaking about stepping to the plate to help community solve issues that they have, right?
Right.
And maybe you'd like to share your perspective on that, because I have the feeling you are motivated from within and not by the outer circumstances.
Absolutely. I think I've been working on my studies as a naturopath. I recently graduated with a doctor of naturopathy and from the school of the Trinity School of Natural Health. And I had been working on energy work and studying different aspects of our being and how we are affected. And I think that a lot of times in communities, we don't value the power of collective work. We think that someone standing in a place with a voice is enough, and we need more than one because more than one person is being affected. In my community, it's air pollution, and in another community, it may be bad water, and in another community, it may be something else. But we have a right to use our voices and collectively come together to share our experiences and share what we want so that we are empowered. Because when we stand alone, it's sometimes we can get doubtful that things will take place, especially when you're trying to or you're positioning yourself to fight an industry that's very rich. Um, you often don't see change as quick as you'd like to. So it's better to align with others and keep your hope alive rather than standing alone and trying to fight the fight by yourself.
Okay. So you're lifting your voice for community, right?
Yes, and I think lifting my voice for humanity, we fail to see the connection of air pollution and water pollution and its impact as a whole. I think that some people think it's just their problem over there, but it's not. It's if it's a problem over here, eventually you're going to see or experience a backlash from this problem. So when we come as a community, it's my hope that we get others outside of the community who may have greater power or know how to help us prove the cases that we need to prove. Because when you're fighting big industry, they have a lot of scientists and a lot of money to cover up what they're doing. And we have to be equipped with the right people and the right minds who care to do the right thing.
Hmm. And of course, in miracles, there's the question of that there is only two voices you listen to: the voice of love or the voice of fear, right, or of separation. And choosing the voice of love is the solution, because the other voice is built on an illusion, the idea that one could be separate. Now, in the light of what you were saying you need to fight someone, right, or an organization or whatever.
Right.
How does that look when you're coming from this spiritual perspective? Because you're saying it's a fight. Is it really a fight?
You're right. Whenever I looked at it in these last couple of weeks, I've been realizing that it's not, and it can't be a fight, because you can't fight in love. I'm just as concerned about the workers in the industry as I am about the community members living next to the industry. I don't want to fight. I want us to find a common ground where we see and understand the importance of the wellness of people and the fact that industry shouldn't care about products over people, the lives and the wellness of the people serving them as workers and the community living next to their industry should not be put in harm's way. We have a we have a cancer epidemic and an asthma epidemic in small children. And I'm sure that the workers in the industry have high sickness as well. So I don't want to fight. I want to serve and help them through energy medicine and naturopathy to understand that they are being affected. And when we fight together, or when we organize together, we can create dialogues that will allow for green industry, instead of pretending like it's not pollution, because it would have to be pollution if so many are sick.
So changing one's mind about the world is the only thing you can do, according to A Course in Miracles. You cannot change the world. Now, in the light of this whole situation you're in, it's really a challenge to see it that way, because there is, you have this outer image of harm being done, right? And people being harmed and people needing to find a way out of that, right?
Right.
So the question is, how do you go about that? Because it's really so important to stay in love, right?
Yes, and I think that I take better care of myself. I use a lot of the naturopathy remedies and tools that I've learned, and I share them with people who are willing. I buy products and give them out so that people can try them and see whether or not they're worth trying, because it's often difficult for people to change. And so I want to hold someone's hand through the change and let them realize it's a light. It can be a light process. We make it difficult with our thoughts. And, because I've changed my thinking on what I'd like to do in the community, I don't want to fight industry. I want to provide a space for the community to heal. I've begun looking at how to make our family house into a healing house for the community and workers, where we could serve food and have an opportunity for community to take place again, because the industry has made it so bad. We don't have very much business in coffee shops or places where people gather anymore. So I've changed it in that regard, that I've taken my fight and created something of love that I hope the community will support.
Yeah, so there's another thing that's really fun. There's no degree of difficulty in miracles. So,
And that's very true. I mean, I think of that just by meeting you, and in this short time, I've wanted to learn how to change my perspective about the fight, and also learn about how to create podcasts and express myself in a better way, because I had maybe been offending people on Facebook. And so you've given me a lot of miraculous experience in a very short time of knowing each other.
that's wonderful. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So this idea that there's no degree of difficulty in miracles means that there's nothing that cannot be found. It's a remembering, right? It's not creating something new in the sense that it's different or whatever, but that we are remembering our own power, our own hugeness, right? Because we all are infinitely valuable and loved and capable. And this is true of anyone, right? Even all the people you are describing as great industry, right? Because that's the great industry is an idea, right? And the people who are upholding that idea, right? So yeah, you can be certain there is a way. According to A Course in Miracles, the Holy Spirit has a way that is wonderful for everyone. So everyone gets the highest good out of it.
Yes.
So that's what we're looking for, right? That's what we're
right.
The intention is to remember that.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely want the highest good for everyone, especially the children.
Yeah.
They are the future. We'll leave this space to them.
Yeah, so you are an educator, from professional educator, you told me before. So what are the values you want to impart to children?
I think that it's important to love yourself, learn yourself first, and really truly become expressive in who you are. I think that most children, when they get involved in certain school settings, are only limited to what they are exposed to. And in my case, having two young African American males in a poor education system, I had to make a choice to withdraw them from it, because I knew that it wouldn't give them the right skill sets that they needed to thrive and to be their best. So I always shared with my students, the importance of making as many mistakes as possible. That's the best way to learn the right way, rather than fearing making mistakes and not trying. And liking yourself allows you to not be as offended when people say things you dislike or that are untrue about you. Um, Identity crisis is a big issue in youth, and it's even become more so in younger youth because of social media usage. So I think it's important to create a strong core self um, love, self worth, self identity structure, and not to go against others, but to be comfortable in being in yourself will allow you to allow others to be themselves. And that will help you see whether or not they're worth hanging out with. And that's what a lot of the youth have to be careful about, is who they're with, what they're doing, what their intentions are.
Mm. Yeah, so recognizing your own value, right, as I was speaking of before, right, is
Right.
very important in the way you educate, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you do that?
So, a lot of times it's through positive reinforcement and encouraging students to speak well of themselves. That's where it starts, because they don't really identify. As a naturopath, can do muscle release, muscle response testing, and you can use certain statements and let them see how their statements can weaken their core or show weakness in their core. Whereas when they use positive statements, they can create a stronger core, and they don't really believe you when you tell them, what you speak is what you think, and that becomes what you are. But when you can show them, you have a big burly football player, trying to resist your tapping his arm and he can't, then they're able to see that there is something to this energy and what we speak and what we eat, what we do, what we think. And I think that it's taking the time, not just delving into workbooks and giving out homework. It's paying attention and listening. I try to apply my education for the student. So I can create my curriculum, but I adapt it to the students who are in my classroom. And every classroom is different, filled with different students. So you have to be able to meet the students where they are and introduce information and material from what they like so that you can gain their interest. And that's where I think the, the role of self um, self enrichment is it's best learned to be applied early on in your educational experience.
Mm. So what you're saying is by recognizing their strength and their value and the power of their thoughts, right? They can actually experience themselves very differently, right?
Right.
And then they see
Absolutely.
their peers and other people very differently that because of that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll empathize with others and relate to them. I know that it helped me. Um, it allowed me to observe the judgment within myself and remove it and make clear where others had struggled, and no longer do I have judgment.
Yeah, that's a powerful thing, is the idea of being able to let go of judgment, right? Because judgment separates us from each other, makes us feel like we are separate.
Right. And we come from, especially in American culture, it's very separate, in my opinion. And so we found so many different ways to separate ourselves that now we have an opportunity to change that experience. And I think, or I'm experiencing it better anyway. I don't go out much, but when I'm at the grocery stores, I have found and met pleasant people who are seemingly on the same journey as me. And that's to be happy and share love and encouragement with each other through difficult times.
Yeah.
That's what we all need.
Yeah, we need to remember who we are. And I would like to add the idea of who we think we are and who we actually are. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I had a lot of difficulty when I was first introduced to that thought. And through a lot of soul searching and great experience, I realized I had been operating differently based on that, and I had been putting on masks to try to be who I thought I needed to be in certain situations. Once I was able to identify and observe myself, I could see how I was harming my ability to reach the better person I wanted to become and to give the best me. So now I'm able to identify and watch where I can make those changes, and hopefully others can see the change in me.
Yeah, we have the power of choice, right? Which voice we listen to. So yes, it's very powerful, and no matter what, every time we choose love rather than fear, right? We are choosing for everyone, not just for ourselves. And no miracle is a miracle that we experience alone. It always affects
Right.
everyone. And there's always others who are part of it, whether we are aware of it or not. Yeah, so you can trust in that.
Yeah. Yes. And that's a very beautiful, trusting place to be. It's, it's a sweet experience.
Yes, I'm sure you have some plans of what you will put on your podcast once you start it.
Hopefully, yes, I definitely do. I have tons of plans. I'm just hoping that people will want to hear.
Yeah, well, what are your plans? Maybe some of the people here will want to listen to it once it's there.
Yes, I'd like to talk about light life living and how to make some challenging experiences lighter by having different perspectives, by using different resources and methodologies. EFT tapping, breath work, energy work, looking at what we're eating and the things that we're saying to ourselves and just being honest. I mean, it's really sad to me that in the United States, a lot of fast food workers have to go out and serve when they're making, poor wages and probably have poor living situations. And families are failing to cook at home in a time like this when it's really important and most parents are home together. So I'd like to find a way to encourage families to cook home again and cook healthy meals that children will like. I'll involve my children and grandchildren, and they're pretty picky, but we find what they like, and that's what we enjoy. And I think that's what is important is when you're willing to change and try something new, you can find something tastes just as delectable in a healthy version, and you feel better. After you eat it, you still have energy. And a lot of the families are going to feel the impact of eating out so much right now, but it will take some time, and that will again burden the health industry. And so we have to have a way of encouraging and empowering families to return to what we remember is preparing meals at home and eating from local gardens so that we can maintain strength and wellness, and looking at the whole person, the emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical being, so that they're in balance, harmony. That's what's important, and I think that's where we need to talk. And I think that if we do that, I can help people to make big changes, not just for themselves, but for their children, because that's why I started it. I wanted my children to see a different way. So I had to learn to do things differently. And I'm learning more and more. And I'd like to share what I'm learning with others.
Sounds good to me, because you will be always having something to share, because you're sharing from what you are learning, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Have you had ideas of what you might want to call it?
This, I still don't know. I was thinking not talking lightly, but living a light life. Uh, no, not really. I've looked at a lot of different podcast names. They're really great. And I'm thinking, how those guys come up with their names? I don't know. I haven't. That's the only one I could come up with.
Okay, well, you will find the right title. It will come.
Yes, yes. I'm listening to more of your podcasts, and I see others that are suggested, and I'm getting closer linked to people doing the things that I want to do. So I'm sure.
Yeah, wonderful. Let's see. So you said you're now into holistic health and well-being. That's a really, really deep subject, because it means so many different things to many different people. What is your core of that?
Well, in naturopathy, the core is that we live with nature. So I don't promote being vegan over anything I believe everyone has a choice to eat what they want, but we should eat in balance and moderation. And I also believe it doesn't do well to sit in your mosque, synagogue, or church if you're not emotionally well and healed from childhood traumas and things that you're holding on to, sufferings and pain emotionally that are suppressed. And those things can harm the health and well being of a person. And there are natural remedies where they don't have to use other escapes. They can face the issues without using something else to allow them to either forget about it or hide from it. And that's where, we find that nature has everything that we need. There's a balance in nature. It gives us what we need to remove something from our bodies, and it gives us what we need to add to our body. And when we allow ourselves to get close to nature again and give it its honor she's due, we feel better about ourselves, and life is lighter, and we have less burden, and we're able to enjoy what we have rather than seeking more for what we want.
So, what you're saying, there are ways to go deeper that do not involve being settled on one way of thinking or a group thinking that should replace your thinking.
Right. I don't want to change anyone as much as I want to add new information that, if used, will benefit their experience, life experience. I don't go against medical doctors. That's their job and their position, and I would just use what I would offer as a support to what the doctors are offering, not going against medical doctors. And when people come in and talk about diet, I don't believe in diets. I believe in an eating lifestyle. And a lot of times we don't even identify what isn't good for our body. And we can do simple muscle response testing to see if that food is good. I had been eating eggs most of my life and didn't know that I was allergic because I had never had a serious reaction. But my body was having a reaction, and my digestive system wasn't allowing me to absorb the other nutrients that I was eating with the eggs. So you think you're eating healthy, or you think you're eating right, and you might not be. And those are the little things that get in the way. I'm allergic to wheat. When everyone says eat wheat, eat wheat, I had stopped eating beef over 25 years ago. So when I had used wheat as a big replacement and as a filler, and I recently found out I was allergic to wheat. So those are things that I think are important to every person, because it if you don't if you're eating something that doesn't make you feel well, it affects you mentally and emotionally and physically. And the longer it goes on, the longer those effects are. And until they're addressed, they get bigger, in my opinion.
How is it for you that we are not a body, we are free, we are just as God created us. It's a thought from A Course in Miracles.
Yes. No, I love it. I think it serves a place when you're with people who understand their position and purpose. But when living in a community like mine, where didn't, they closed down a grocery store and we haven't had a grocery store in over 25 years. And when I was substitute teaching and trying to talk to people about how they could better pass their tests by eating healthier and eating fruits and veggies, and children are saying they don't eat fruits and veggies. So I think it's important that a person knows the nature of the body that was created, and it wasn't created to eat out of a box or a can. That wasn't the intention. And because these intentions are high in some areas, we see increased health issues. We see environmental issues that affect the health of communities and people. So, as a collective, we can change it easy, sure. But you have to first convince the people to collect. They don't even know that they have a right to say anything. They don't even know that they have a right. And there are a lot of churches in this small little town, but they do a lot of things to me that are for the book, but not for the people. And I don't think that the spirit would ignore the people suffering, especially the children suffering. We have 4 times the national average in asthma in small children. I don't
No,
think that's purpose in any way.
no, of course not. It's about the perspective, the way you see the world, not about ignoring what is in front of you.
Right.
It's changing your mind about it so that you can actually act from a place of love rather than one of judgment, as we were speaking of before.
Yes, the one of the important things that I want is that the community begin to love themselves and realize they're worthy and valuable. That whatever the industry is making is not more valuable and worthy than they are. Not even the workers who put their lives at risk.
Yeah, everyone is infinitely valuable and worthy. So, is there anything you'd like to say or add that I haven't covered or asked you about?
No, this has been a great experience. I really enjoyed it. I'm thankful you've really given me some things to think about.
Yeah. Then, is there any way people, if they're interested, can reach you?
I can be reached by email right now. Meade, M as in maple, E as in elephant, A as in apple, D as in dog, E as in elephant, M as in maple, 307 at gmail.com. And I hope to hear from people. I'm really interested on what podcast people would be most interested in hearing about, or
Okay.
what topics they'd be most interested in discussing.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Then thank you very much for being here on the podcast, and keep going with your writing and sharing, and we will all profit from it.
Indeed. Indeed.
And thank you for everyone who's listening and will be listening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very excited for you listeners.
Yeah, until next time. Bye.